Hey everyone, welcome back to the Funny Farm. I'm Derek. This is the Funny Farm. Today we're going to finish our final part for the Ford 8N tractor series. We're going to get the hood and cape back on. We're going to get the transmission functioning and the clutch functioning. Hopefully, we're going to figure out a low oil pressure issue. We're going to get the lights working. We're going to get this thing charging, the 12-volt conversion system figured out, running properly, and any other little issues that we might run into over the time of the video, we're gonna solve and get this thing field ready. So thanks for joining, I appreciate it. Let's get into it. Right now I'm going through and I'm changing the oil for the first time of this tractor now that we had it running. I didn't really see anything on the oil pressure and it really worried me. So I shut it down and I'm gonna change the oil, see what comes out. I checked to get oil up here, looks bone dry. Check down here, there's a little something down there. So I know oil was at least getting to this point somewhere, but nothing coming up here. We're only getting the best. This is some T5 diesel engine oil. Thank you, Rotella. There's a 15/16 nut on front of this engine block you can take off. Now there's a spring in it. You gotta be careful, but it's not on very tight. You can take that spring plunger and nut out and fill it with some 90 weight. I've had this for a couple of years now. I always have some on stock, so I'm gonna just literally put as much of this in there as I can and then immediately try to start this tractor once I have it back together. That way, hopefully I can build prime. Clearly the engine has lost prime. And here's what that looks like. So there's a plunger on the end of this, then the spring assembly. So just keep that all together. And now I can pour that in. I think that's a quart. I'm gonna pour the whole quart in there. Okay, we have prime now, everyone. Check this out. Okay. It's the morning before work and I'm just heating up each one of these small nuts, these 9mm-ish nuts on the back of this tack. I'm gonna be replacing this. And these bolts were in horrendous shape. I bought this really cheap tractor meter from the eBay. This is from SpareX, but it was a secondhand, never used type of deal. Hopefully it fits. We're gonna remove this tractor meter down there and replace it, see if this thing fits. Well, maybe I should have kept this and removed this. I feel like there was a light switch and this was it. But I just didn't recognize that. I didn't do much investigating, not going to lie. So, there it is. Let's see if this thing fits, and we'll remove this. Okay, a little bit of persuasion, we have this out. I believe that is for a light switch. Let's put this one in. 20 amps in line, which is great on the switch. I don't have to add that. Beautiful. All right, I just installed the new gauge. This is jumping in, everyone. I want to go over the wiring for this 3-wire alternator and for this system. I'm going to link a picture right here. Make sure to stop and take a picture of that if you have a setup like this. So here's what we got going on here, everyone. We have an ammeter and a terminal block. The terminal block, I'm only using 2 posts. One side of the ammeter goes to the starter solenoid right here. One side goes to the terminal block. One side of the terminal block goes to the alternator and to the positive side of the coil. Everything else, such as the key switch, lights, other ends of the alternator, go to the other side of the terminal block. We have a 3-wire alternator. So we have 1, 2, 3 wires. We have a main wire, a number 1 wire, and a number 2 wire. The number 1 wire has an inline diode, which I will show putting that all together. The coil also is an internal resistor, so there's no external resistor needed on this tractor. It reads at about 3.5 ohms. The number 1 wire with the diode goes back to the terminal block that connects to the positive side of the coil. This number 2 wire right here, this wire connects to the other side of the terminal block. That's where the key switch, the lights, another side of the ammeter connect to. The one with all the connections on it. This main wire here also goes to the terminal block, to where everything else is, including this number 2 wire. I used to have a jumper you'll see later in the video between the 1 and 2. I switched that out for 2 independent wires. And on the negative side of the coil, we have a negative wire coming down to the distributor. Hope this helps somebody. Now enjoy the rest of the video. So this again is the voltage block. I will not have a voltage reducing resistor for the coil. This has an internal resistor. So we're skipping that. That's why this positive side is going straight to our block. I'm also not sure how to test the block, if that works properly. I think they're like $10 or $20 on any of the sites. So I might pick that up, but I'm hoping I can get the system to work with that block. I mean, I don't know how it can go bad, honestly, as long as you have it cleaned up. It's clean, there's no rust on it, so that should work fine, I think. Next thing on my list is looking at this alternator. Now, I'm probably gonna have to pull this alternator off and have it checked, but I definitely wanna hook it up first and just see what happens. All right, so for this alternator, this is a 3-wire alternator. Most people will go to a 1-wire alternator. Super easy, super simple. I don't wanna spend money on that. I'm going to try to use what we already have. Now, again, I'll probably have this checked, but I wanna go over what a 3-wire alternator is. So we have 1 wire right here. That was the wire coming from the ammeter, and then flowing right here to, this is our charging wire. This is going right here. From the charging wire, we can bump over. There is called a number 2 and a number 1. They are both labeled. Let's see if I can show you. There's a 2. I don't think the 1 is seen, but there's an R and an F. You can see a 2 there slightly as well. So that's our 3 wires. 1 charging, coming over to our second, number 2. The 1 wire is missing. I'm going to hook that wire up, and I'm going to run that wire back now here. That 1 wire, or the number 1, run back to a diode or a light. Diode or a light. I'll show that. Mr. Block. Now it's going to go where the black label key is. So this key switch, black and yellow, the black goes right here now by itself. So that's where that wire will go to. Now I'm running this wire, this 12 gauge wire from the number 1. I'm gonna run it with an inline diode, which I don't have, but I'll add that in. I'm gonna run this to where the black of this key switch goes. which is right here. So it'll go right here on this resistor block. A guy from AutoZone promised me this would fit on this 4.8 end. I'm highly confident that guy had no idea what he was talking about. Close, but nope. Dang. You gotta steer it. So I was going through some things real quick on my day off. I've still been unable to get power to the coil without jumping it directly from the battery. I have two wires to the positive side of the coil. One of these is going to the battery. When I remove that from the battery, there's nothing. Shouldn't happen. I shouldn't even need that wire currently. So I was fumbling around with some wires. Looking at the ammeter, one thing I haven't taken apart. I wanted to clean up this connection, and this one broke. So the one ammeter gauge, the one ammeter wire broke off. It just snapped off. So this is the one that's connecting it to the starter switch, and I'm gonna find the other wire that's laying here somewhere. Oh, right here. Boom. Okay. So we can cut that off, fix it, clean it up. Maybe that will help us. You know, I just bought some shrink tube. I can't find where I placed it. I have no idea. I'm gonna run into it, but I wanted to put some over this connection to just, you know, make sure I don't have to go back in there. But whenever I find that, I'll go back in there and pull this off and do it the right way. But I'm just gonna clip these together right now. All right, that's now on there. Again, I'm gonna pull that back off and put something over this. I might even change this end out, but for right now, that should be okay. Well, looking through my parts inventory here at the farm, I found this Baldwin filter that is for this Ford 8N. I bought this when I first bought this tractor almost 2 years ago, and I never used it. So boom, there we go. So one awesome thing from today is that we do have a consistent oil pressure while running this tractor. So that's good, that's positive. We have an oil filter, that's positive. We changed the oil once again and, you know, did all that. Everything was good. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that we still don't have spark if I don't have it wired directly from the battery to the coil. Now, that's an issue. I don't know what's going on there. I didn't get the diode yet. I'm gonna hook the diode up probably tomorrow whenever I get it. And then the wiring should be complete, what my spec shows on the booklet for a 3-wire 12-volt converter. If I'm still not getting spark, I'm gonna have to ask some experts out there on the interwebs. If I don't charge, I don't think I'm gonna charge, but if I don't see anything on positive amperes, I'm gonna remove the alternator and take it down to the shop, take it down to Big Lou's. So that's where we are. I think I'm confident that it will run if I have a consistent gas line hookup. I'm also pretty aware of what's going on with this tractor, so I kind of want to put the hood on while I'm here messing around with all this. So do I do that? It's a lot to do. It's heavy, but I kind of want to do that. I think it's a big step for us here. Let's do it. And you know what? We can take it back off if needed. You know, it might be a little bit too soon, especially not checking the alternator, but I think I can handle. I think I can manage. You gotta stretch and flex. Stretch and flex. This is gonna be a lot. Oh, well now I'm committed. That was not supposed to happen. Just take a little breather. Okay. Uh-oh, my hand's stuck. Oh. Okay, it's on. You have a bezel and a headlamps coming in. Well, here she is. Next step is we're gonna hook up the fuel bowl assembly, get some gasoline, make sure we're not leaking, see if we can get this thing running for a little bit longer. Then hopefully we can connect the diode to the alternator here soon. And then hopefully we're gonna get our light bulbs in this week as well. We can make sure that we can start wiring those up. But again, we have to get power to our coil and distributor without the direct hookup from the battery. We gotta figure that out. Everything else seems to be okay. We have to tune this tractor a little bit more, but we gotta get it to idle with more fuel before we can do that. Gonna keep this open for now to check for that leak at the bottom, make sure we are not leaking, or see if I can plug that. I still would like to solder that. We'll see. Also, of course, whenever this is all completed on the wiring, we're charging, we're getting power we need to, I, of course, will use a harness and get this all cleaned up. Everything's exposed right now, so I know what's what. We have our diodes in from Amazon. So what did we get? Now I will link this. This is from Bojack. So these are some rectifier diodes, pack of 50. I wanted 3 amp. That's what I believe we're rated for. 600V. 3 amp was really important to me. Now they're very small. This might even make it look large, but they are small. So we need 1 diode in line from that number 1 up to our block. Really in between, I should say, like the battery. So what direction? Any diode you're gonna have, most likely is gonna have a stripe. I figured out that we wanna have the stripe facing the alternator, and I will show you how I determine that. All right, take your diode, pick a random side, any side, and use our alligator clips. I'm gonna pick this side. So the side that is not the stripe side. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna touch this to the positive on the battery. I will touch our light to the negative on the battery and see if it lights up. So touching the positive, taking our light to the negative, check it out, no light. All right, so we don't have any flow. Now my alligator clips are towards the stripe. Touch this to the positive, touch the light to the negative. Oh, and we have light, folks. That means we want that stripe facing the alternator. We want it flowing down. I'll be using rosin core, and I'll be using some paste flux. Real quick, I'd like to say that I'm not a professional. Okay. This is the new fuel bowl assembly that I bought a couple years ago. We did have this on the tractor. I just sprayed some WD-40 in this thing, sloshed it around. I don't want to break the gasket seal. It worked perfectly before. So I'm going to put this back in, fill it up. Hopefully we don't have any leaks. I put some fuel grade Teflon on here, and this is fairly tight. Let's go ahead and put this on. It's like I remember being here. All right, two issues we're seeing with the Ford still. The carburetor is leaking while it's trying to run. It's sputtering. I think the float is getting stuck still. I want to take that apart, make sure the float is at the right height adjustment, which I have not done yet. So that's an issue. Woo! That was as long as we've had it running. Doing some more carburetor adjustments. Let's fire it up again. If we can get it to run long with this fuel tank on it, maybe we can take this thing for a spin. Seems like the clutch isn't wanting to work. Okay, we're going to start it in first. The clutch really wasn't doing any clutch things. I don't know if the brakes are sticking, if they work. They're cruddy drum brakes. Who knows? It sat in a field for 10 plus years. So yeah, let's just try to drive it right out here and see what happens. It likes the high idle, it seems like. That's something we can certainly fix. But I think I want to drive it first. It's probably not a good idea. But hey, you know. Quick word from our sponsor. We have to say Coop. Hey. Major success today with driving this thing for the first time. Still, it looks like the clutch is engaged, so I'm having trouble disengaging it. When I push it down, nothing. I can shift before and then start it in gear. So what I'm probably gonna do is end up weighting that clutch pedal down, seeing if that helps. I even probably gonna end up starting it in a higher gear, third gear, fourth gear. Now the other issue I'm seeing is that one brake drum just feels like there's a bunch of junk in it, probably a bunch of rust. It might stick. I don't think it does anything. The other one is just pretty feather light. Doesn't really do anything at all. I don't even know if it's hooked up. So two things I have to investigate, including the clutch. So that's on my now to-do list. Both worst case scenarios, both came true, sadly. So I'm hoping we can get both figured out without doing too much serious work, because I don't want to take those tires back off. They legitimately are 300 pounds each, no joke. And it's just a lot. I have 2 light bulbs coming this week, plus the bezel. I need to get those touched up. This week is probably our last week of 70+ degree weather days. So get those paint, they're black paint finished up on those. Get those lights in and I can wire those lights. We have oil pressure. I need to finish up the diode that I started. And if all that, it doesn't charge, which I don't think it's going to, but if it doesn't, I'm going to take that alternator off and take it down to the shop, see what they say. And I need to test the 3-point as well. I need to test the hydraulics on this thing. Well, I got it in last night pretty late before the football game Sunday night, and I couldn't get it to stop, but I pulled off the wire that goes to the battery. That means we weren't getting any power to the coil, and I shut her down before it hit the wall. Literally right before it hit the wall, I shut it down. So I got stuck in gear. I couldn't get it out of gear. Usually I could just stomp on the clutch and pull it out, and it wouldn't grind or anything, but it would pop out. That time, no, it would not pop out. I did get her free though, so now I'm gonna try to back it out of here. But I did notice that we had a pretty bad oil leak from this gauge, so I'm gonna tighten that up. It's a 7/16. I think they're all the same, and then we will go ahead. I turned the fuel on, no leaks anywhere, which is wonderful news. And we can back this thing back up. And I did fiddle around. The carb took a lot of adjustment. It was already in spec. I think it's a turn and a half on both of the idle screws. And they both need to turn in quite a bit more to make this thing run a little bit smoother. It seemed like I'm still not getting proper seating sometimes with the valves. Some of them I think are they're not hanging, but they're not sealing properly. I'm getting a little bit of backfire sometimes, but I think as we run this more and more and at a better idle, I think it's going to get better and better. We have some good oil in there. So I know you're able to hear some of that. Some oil burning off on this exhaust. That's just terrible smell. But I had that fixed in here. I don't think that's leaking anymore. One slight positive news is that I do have to still do some shrink tube over the diode of the lines, but the tractor's charging. I think that's hilarious. The tractor's charging. That's great. But it didn't turn off with the key, so I'm still trying to figure out. And I'm overriding the push button. We got a new one, and I got to put that in. So it might be because I'm jumping still jumping it technically. The key might not be functioning properly with that setup. So I'm not gonna worry about that until I put the new button on. But yeah, it's charging. Let's go ahead and test the hydraulics. Never used the 3-point before. Let's see if it does anything. Now again, the clutch isn't working properly, so I don't know if I'll be able to get this to work, but I'll try. I'm gonna check the hydraulics and the PTO. So what I wanna do is on the left side of this transmission, we have a lever. This is our PTO lever. We need to engage this lever for the PTO to spin, if it functions, and also for this 3-point lift. This has to be engaged for either one of those to work. Now, I've got the clutch depressed. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this. Okay, lever is depressed. Now, I'm gonna start the tractor in neutral. I don't know if there's a setting on this where it's just at like a level plane, but we're just gonna start it like so and see what happens. I don't know what to expect here. Now we're also, I think we're in draft mode. There's a little lever up here. So we wanna have it up. I'll show both if this functions. We're gonna have it up. PTO is spinning. These are also going up and down. Now I believe that those should come down as well. So I was able to get them to come up. PTO spins, that's all good. But I haven't been able to get them to come down. Let's see if I can mess with it a little bit more. This is how you know this has been sitting for a while. We got dirt daubers in the fuel tank. Look at that. I will definitely make sure to get those vacuumed out of there. That is funny. All right, it functions well. Perfect. Slowly getting the clutch back. It seems like we're still dragging one of the brakes. The left brake is dragging, I think. I think we have it now. Clutch is engaged. Third, first, fourth, second, and reverse. Nice. Fourth gear. Oh, on a hill. We're not dialing that well yet. I'm suspicious that the manifold isn't on tight enough. All those bolts are very tight by hand. I even thought I was gonna break one of them. That was prior, but it just seems like it's maybe warped. It's probably original. It's probably warped at some point, but I think we're getting some air through that, which is why it's running a little rough. So gonna hit it with an impact tomorrow when I get some light. If that doesn't do anything, I might even try to get some more like gasket seal for the top of this manifold. I did it over here. Looks like it's working, but you can see right there, and there's some over here too. So there's definitely some air getting through there. I decided to pull off the manifold. I just had so many leaks. And it's rougher than what I remember. There's some old gasket material that's still on there. So I'm going to clean this thing up. And maybe that helps. I'm going to check to see how warped it is as well. Just looking down the line. If you look here, you can tell kind of where. You can tell. Or you can... it's leaking everywhere. I cleaned this up as much as I could. What I'm noticing is very heavy pitting. Here and here. Very heavy. So I'll put some gasket maker on this, some high heat gasket maker, including the gasket we have, and go from there. And if I can't get these to seal, I will probably have to end up buying another manifold. So again, right here and right here, very pitted. Can I even show that? Yeah, there we go. Very pitted. Look at that. I mean, geez. Whew. But they are 80 years old, so I guess I get it. I'll give it to them. But, wow, that stinks. This will be the first time starting with the new manifold, seal, and cleaned up a little bit. Let's see if there's any difference.
Hey. Whoa, Tony.
Cooper! Coop!
You gonna wave? Waiting on that. And now I'm gonna run the light. Using 12 gauge wire, what I'm gonna do is run one wire, which I already did, right here, across, and there's the filler neck for the radiator, comes around right through here. So that's one wire. I don't use a connector or anything. What I'm gonna do is cut a hole, tie in a third wire. I will use rosin and solder that, tie that wire, and run it back to our switch right here. Gonna use some flux for this and some rosin core. I think this is my rosin core wire. So I have this in here. Again, I'm just gonna attach this and run it to my light switch. And this will be for the ground. That ground's gonna connect in here. There we go. This ground will connect in here. Clean this up and hook a light up. Both bulbs wired in. I want to make sure these work before I, put the bezels in and clean them up, I worked out some adjustments with the timing and with the carburetor. So let's fire this thing back up. Let's see if the manifold still leaks. I think it's going to a little bit, but I think it should be okay. We can dial this in. I also want to see if I can get power to both lights. I feel like it's not grounding properly. It might be because these wings are kind of just hanging there. That's my thought, but I'm gonna dig in further to that to see if I'm getting power and if I can get this thing to run right. If it does, maybe I'll back out and take it for a spin. Winter comes at you fast. It's already in the teens here in Pittsburgh. It's mid-November. Whew, it's cold. I'm trying to put these wings on the Ford. I'm trying to find a cooler day. Or sorry, no. Oh, no. I'm trying to find a warmer day to look through this wiring. Look at a couple key points for the lights. I figured I'd put these wings on while I was waiting. No. All right, I have good news and bad news. Bad news is this hood got to come off. So in working with the wiring on the lights, I figured out that these, I don't know what you call them, side skirts. I'm not sure. These sides aren't going to mount because of the radiator and everything else in there. So I got to pull it off, mount them, and then put it back on. Then I can rerun these lights. Now, good thing I can just detach the lights here at the dash, take all the wiring with me. But I got to drain this fuel, which is what I'm doing. Afterwards, we're going to replace this push button, hopefully get that thing working, and clean up this wiring. There's a couple points that aren't getting connection, I think. And after that, we should be in good shape. Okay, the skirts are officially actually bolted up and bolted on. I think I'm gonna do some more soldering here and clean this up before I slap this thing back on the tractor. It's also -6 degrees today. Tomorrow's even worse. Trying to get done what we can. Okay, we're getting power. But over here, we're not. And this is where it drops down to our block. Actually, wait. I think that's a false reading. Yeah, I feel like that might be false. Something's going on. I need to clean this connection up. Because as you can see, it jumps down to our block. And right here, or really here, we're not getting power. Getting power here from the coil, but I'm not getting anything here. So I'm getting power everywhere now. Power everywhere now on this block. We're good. It's a little low. It's pretty cold. But everything matches. So that's good, including lights, key switch, everything gets power. That's with the key on. If the key off, you don't. That's great. So let's make sure these skirts are tight. We'll get a good ground. We're gonna put that back on the tractor and tighten things back up. Okay, everything's back on. I didn't damage anything. So what I'm going to do now is try to put this on, this grill, and then reinstall my light bulbs. And then now that we have power, hook up that wire, make sure we have power to those, and see if we can get anything going from that. And then, yeah, tidy up the rest of this hood. I use some 5/8 bolts to bring these skirts in where that radiator is. And this front grill, I used some 1/2 inch. They just thread into these skirts at the bottom. I'm gonna have to adjust this one over here a little bit more, but that's really it. And then there's they have these little tabs that pop up into the top mount here. Keep it all nice and tight. All right, so that means we're gonna go to lights next. Well, I'm back here fumbling with the switch for the lights, and this one just popped on, so let's go. That looks nice and bright. That's awesome. I haven't wiggled around with this one at all yet. You know, I did clean off everything inside, and I did spray, and you know, I did like a rust preventive spray, and then I don't know if I painted them like a paint or if I just did a primer. That's right, primer. I think I just put a primer on. I did a rust prevention, then I did a primer, but then I stained it off where the little screws go in or mount in for the ground, so those are clear. So removing all of this assembly, I went ahead and I touched just some metal here, and voila. So it's just a grounding issue. I'll clean that back up and see if it works. Okay, I have both lights and the bezels on. Took forever to find this bezel. I couldn't figure out where I put it at. Was actually in the back of my truck. So those are all set up now. I gotta paint that one still. I wanted it to be black. It's like a light white. I don't know what that is. So that's the setup now. I'm gonna hook up the fuel line again. Then I'm gonna test to make sure that we still have power at the light switch when I hook this back up. Make sure we have power to those and see if we can get those lights to turn on and off. So that's what we're working on. And I need to pick up a swivel from a relative to get these 3 bolts here for this cover plate. So these bolts are very tight against here. I think that's a strange design. We need some kind of swivel socket. All right, so our lights are working now. That's good. We can move on to clean up this carburetor. I ended up running a wire down right here to this this oil pump housing. So yeah, runs down there, and that's our ground. I wanted to double check this carburetor for the 100th time, take it all apart, which I did. I'm putting it back together now. I didn't find any smoking gun. I did try to clean up some of the needles. And I wanted to check the float level, which is correct, which I was hoping it wasn't, but it is. You want the float to read at 1/4. And it currently is, meaning that this float level is set properly. Getting this thing nice and hot and running, I was able to tighten down the manifold bolts a little bit more. I think it made a real difference. When it starts, you can see some smoke rising. So I know that it's getting through, but I didn't see it this time, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and drain some of this radiator. It's been awful putting this thing back together. It's overheating, 10, 15 minutes it's overheating, and badly too. So I'm gonna keep draining it. I might put a sock in there. I think I'm gonna have to do that, put a sock in there as a cheap fix. I already have it together. I don't really wanna take it back apart. Probably should have spent $100 for a radiator. Oof. Been working on cleaning out this radiator. We are getting some serious overheating. I'm not sure if it's getting into the block. It looks pretty clear right now, clear as it's been, but there's still some debris on this, on its left side, my right side over there. Hard to see though. Just removed this cover plate finally. Looks to have been sealed up very well. I'm really impressed by the look of this. What we're after is right here. All right, here's a good look. This sealed up well, it was not leaking. That is really neat. A couple of things that I'll clean up right there. Make sure not to knock any of this in. All right, here's the new starter switch and gasket. Gonna have everything linked below. Now there's a nut with a couple lock retainers. So I'm gonna use a screwdriver and I'm gonna pry up on each one of these. I think there are 2 or 3 that keep this nut from backing itself out. Okay, all 3 of those are now just pried up, very easy. And now I'll just use, I'm not sure what size this is. Just using a crescent. I believe it's about 1 inch or 1 1/8 inches. It's definitely bigger than 3/4. I'm assuming it's bigger than 7/8, but it could be that too. But it's definitely not metric either, just being from the age. So let me just back this out. You can see how this is built. This will just, this nut just backs out. And you can pull this up and out. This connector hits here, and that's what enables it to make contact to start. This one also only goes in one way. There's that cutout. That way you can't really mess up where the location is. That helps people like me out. Okay, without too much effort, this is all back together. This just slides out this piece all together. There's a retainer clip. And that way you can pop the new one on. Make sure it slides through the clip. Put the retainer on it and put the nut on. And we can tighten this back down, and then we can use another flathead screwdriver to close down and clamp this nut so that it doesn't work its way out over time. Okay, all 3 of those are now just pried up, very easy. And now I'll just use, I'm not sure what size this is, but I will just use a wrench. Now there's a nut with a couple lock retainers. So I'm going to use a screwdriver, and I'm going to pry up on each one of these. I think there are 2 or 3 that keep this nut from backing itself out. Hard to see, but there is a lot of junk in this. Let's see if I can try to get it out of there somehow. I noticed that if I have the choke out, depending on where I have it adjusted on the carburetor, when I have the choke out, it runs a lot smoother, and I can usually get it to go and do something. So I think it's a fuel issue. First thing I'm doing right now is I drain the fuel, try to clean out the fuel tank as best I can. I already dropped the lines, and I have the filters. There's 2 inline filters. I'm going to show you one of those filters right now. Once I have it all back together, I would like to... So I've been trying to figure out the issue of the tractor running so choppy. And what I've been able to figure out, with able to run it longer, we flushed the radiator about 10 times. It seems to be running okay now and not overheating, so I can run this tractor longer. But I'm still stalling in the middle of my driveway, and I can't get it to run fast or run for a smooth period of time. Yeah, that would probably cause some problems. All that debris just came out of this, so definitely was causing problems. Don't know how I missed that one. Let's take care of these finally. Darn dirt daubers. This is taking it out. Not as bad as what I expect, but definitely, definitely there's some junk in there still. A couple issues going on here. As you can see, I noticed that this does not have a stud. There's a bolt, and it has a nut connected to it. Almost welded onto it, it looks like, and I just can't get this tight enough. You can see where we're having some leakage. We're having leakage everywhere. There's just leakage everywhere here. So I'm going to clean this up. I have some thermo steel that I'm going to apply to this. Put some paper over it. Tighten down our manifold. Let it sit overnight, because there's some pitting. It doesn't look that bad, truly, but a little bit goes a long way. So we're going to try to get that cleaned up, because this thing is just running awful, absolutely awful, and you can't really do anything with it until this is resolved. I believe this is our true culprit. So it seems like my thermosteel package has been missing. So a week later, I've got Inferno Seal metal repair. So this is the one thing I could find that was somewhat similar via AutoZone. Thank you. And this is only $6. Awesome. So let's go ahead and let's use a flathead screwdriver. Let's put some of this, let's smear this on to this block and see how this goes. Okay, this finally came in. Quick Steel Thermo Steel Repair Kit. Let's go ahead and get this thing broken out, make sure we're okay. And we're gonna apply it right here. I'm hoping this isn't already cured. I don't like the look of the water in there. So let's get this open. It's still sealed, so that's positive news. I think we're swinging a miss here, people. This is unreal. 2 of these in a row. They just can't survive shipping. My goodness, they're sitting on the shelf. It's third time and third product, a charm. Mixing up this JB Weld we're gonna put on there. It's the only thing I could find that wasn't already broken with a seal. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is put some parchment paper over this and then put the manifold back on here and tighten it down. That way I can let this set up and dry. Then I can, when I take it off, hopefully there'll be less that I have to sand doing that process. All right, I have this sanded down now. I had it pressed in there, so it fit the manifold pretty well. I think I'm gonna roll with this. I don't know how much of a serious solution this will be. I really wanted to use the other product, although I haven't been able to get it. So this was the next best option. I still think with this being pressed in there, it's gonna do a good job. That with the new stud and the new bolt, I think this may really change the way this tractor runs. Breaking out everything I can to fix this issue. So I'm gonna spray some spray gasket, high temp. I'm also gonna use some high temp sealant just to double check. Okay, we're all back together. Need to tighten down this muffler clamp. We should be tight, ready to rock. We're gonna let it set some longer, let it set and dry. All right, here's it running. And almost 30. It sounds much better right now. Also holding a weak charge, but it is charging currently. I don't know if this gauge shows it. It shows slightly over. That's positive. I'm still not getting power to the coil, so I'm not sure if that's just a gap incorrect in the distributor or a poor coil. Do some testing. She sounds really healthy right now. Okay, shout out to my brother Zach. Thanks for coming by and helping me out the other night. I think we finally figured out this wiring. Let's go. We decided to start the tractor with this extra wire on the battery. So that wire was on, going to our coil up there. Before we hooked up that wire, I went through and I checked voltage while this engine was being turned over. So our coil had between 3 and 8 volts on a digital meter, and the distributor had between about 4 and 6 volts. So we ran the tractor with the wire on the battery. Once we went through the checks, it seemed pretty okay. I pulled the wire off and the tractor continued to run. So I hit the key, turned the key off, tractor shut off. All right. So what was going wrong? I think this little gem here on the distributor, and I opened up the distributor and opened and closed the points with the key on, and I was getting spark. So I knew we had spark, but when the engine was rotating over, we were losing spark. I think this was loose and it was shaking around, causing this to lose spark. And maybe because it wasn't hooked directly to the battery, we weren't getting enough volts to this without it breaking back and forth, opening and closing. And that was probably also a little fuel tip I found. I read this, and it says there's reserve fuel, and that's the whole way open. So I think I was picking up a lot of junk from the bottom of the tank if it spun the whole way. It should only be about a rotation of 2. So approximately right there. That's fully open. If you open it to reserve, you're gonna pull up a bunch of junk from the bottom of the tank, and you don't wanna do that. You're gonna clog this filter. So that's properly adjusted now. Key on, neutral. Let's hit the button, see what happens. Pull the choke out. And we are running. All right, we're functioning now. I think this is a major success. I think this tractor's just about done. I was cleaning up some extra wires, and I pulled this wire finally off of the coil. It was already disconnected from the battery, so I just pulled it off the one end of the coil, and now I lost spark again. Key on, we got power here, both sides of the coil. We also have power to the distributor. We also have power right here to the points, but I have no spark at all opening and closing those points. Starting to wonder, maybe these points aren't good. These are Tractor Supply, I think that's country or county line points that I have in here. I might want to go to a different set that I have laying around, which I do. That might be the issue. I don't know why taking that wire off the coil would cause me to lose spark like that, though. Still getting power everywhere, but just not having any spark at the points. I think that's really strange. These are from Atlantic quality parts. Maybe I have a better success with these. Okay, new points are in. Let's turn this key on and let's see if we have any spark. I was checking some wires, going over, seeing where I have voltage, where I don't. This coil is really, really hot. So I was fumbling around with the points a little bit, changed those out. Still no spark, and then I lost power to the distributor, and then I had low power to the distributor. Testing ohms, I have 0.08. I should have about 3 to 3.5. So there is almost unlimited connectivity here. So I got a bad coil. Okay, we got a new coil. Let's go test it, make sure it works. I lost power again, so I'm documenting. I have power, battery power, voltage on both sides, positive and negative on the coil. If I hook the negative up to the distributor, I have about 0.06 volts. So I drop a bunch of volts, just about all of them. So I took everything apart, cleaned everything up. I'm slowly putting it back together. I think this has been the culprit thus far, but I cleaned this nut and bolt assembly up. Right now there's power, so I'm gonna slowly put things back together and see if I lose power anywhere or if I've solved the problem. Still have power. Yep. Still have power. And now we don't. Even if I open up the points, there's no spark, no nothing. Nothing changes. Huh, let me think about this. So this is how I solved my electrical issue. Now we had to run a wire to the battery from the coil on the positive side to get this thing running, get it enough volts to do anything. Eventually that failed, so wouldn't turn over, nothing. So we had power to the positive side of the coil, power to the negative side of the coil. As soon as it touched the distributor, no power. 0.6 volts, that's it. Took everything apart, cleaned it all up, couldn't figure it out. So I accidentally touched the positive coil wire, the extra wire that I had on there, to this distributor with the key on accident. I thought it was this wire, and it sparked. Whew! A lot of fireworks there, everyone. So then I thought I really messed up, and then I decided to hook this wire back up, and we had power. So now we have power to here, and we have good spark. We're running. I have no idea what I did. I shocked the system. Don't know what that means, but it works. Well, everyone, I think that's a wrap for this video, finally, and a wrap for this series. I appreciate everyone watching. Tractor's running good. It's feeling good. It's back to life. I appreciate everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.